There are more brands releasing more watches than ever before, and despite the fact that Watches and Wonders is right around the corner, there are still new watches arriving in droves. So to save you wading through a quagmire of clock-based crap to find the new timepiece talismans worth talking about, allow me to consolidate your discovery process into one neat little package. The last one will almost certainly appeal to some of you. If you're in New York from April the 25th to the 27th, then boy do I have news for you. Join me at the first ever Bucherer Watch Week event at the New York TimeMachine flagship store for 3 days of brand new releases from top brands like Omega and Tudor, exceptionally rare and incredible watches from some of the coolest brands on the planet, not to mention keynote talks from industry figureheads. And it's all completely free. You do not want to miss it. Details to RSVP are in the description below. I can't wait to see you there. So we start off today's selection of saucy sundial replacements with a release from, you won't be surprised to hear, Omega. It seems recently that Omega has seen more hot releases than Bonnie Blue, with the product development team firing out rounds like an A10 Warthog. And they're back at it again with the Seamaster Planet Ocean Worldtimer. I think we're long past hoping for any sense of consistency from Omega, so let's roll with it. A pro-level dive watch with 600 meters of water resistance in black ceramic with a world time complication. 3 things that don't make a whole lot of sense in a single sentence. It's a chunky monkey at 45.5mm across by 17.4mm thick, so it's bound to find itself getting up close and personal with the underwater flora. And so crafting the watch from relatively fragile ceramic seems like a questionable idea. And a Worldtimer under the sea? It's unlikely you'll wake grandma back home with a call from the briny deep. Has Omega finally jumped the shark with this one? No, not really. At least not exclusively. The whole industry got air over that cartilaginous fish somewhere around the 1970s when we no longer needed mechanical watches but continued wearing them anyway. And since the closest proximity to the life aquatic for this particular Seamaster will be Nonna's seafood linguine, I don't think it's an issue. What absolutely without question works about this watch is its villainous vibes. All in black with flashes of bright teal, it's about as imperial as watches get. A map of the world one intends to take over, set against a tech-evil backdrop of black hexagons, will match perfectly with the surroundings of a volcano layer, with the blackened land masses presented representing the scorched earth policy intended at the hands of the sweeping blue space laser emanating from the outer slave shield. To be honest, it'll either be the Swatch Group or Disney that gets there first. The price of global domination? $1 million. Adjusted for inflation, is actually £14,000. Ever since COVID, when the world called time out and a huge swathe of the population found themselves lumbered with a whole lot of spare time, more young minds have been tempted by the lucrative path that is making defunct technology very slowly for a small handful of people who still care about these sorts of things. One such passionate individual is Dunham H Bock, who goes by the alias Dunny. Despite autocorrect insisting otherwise, his brand of watches is eponymous, and he's recently announced that he will be accepting orders for the first DH Bock. What I like about this name is that it really sounds like he's got just 1 day left till retirement. Damn it, Bock! I'd say Dunny's fresh out of watchmaking school, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but as far as I know, he's still there, which is a bold move. I guess he's consumed enough knowledge already to do everything the watch demands, and that he's not offsetting production one lesson at a time. Based on my experience with IKEA flat packs, building as you go and not reading the instructions thoroughly first is how you end up with screws left over and a questionable bookshelf when you bought a set of drawers. Whilst Dunny has taken a traditional approach to the styling of his watch, the technical aspect is far more unusual. A dial side balance isn't the most groundbreaking thing we've ever seen, but paired with another round the back, and damn it if you haven't got yourself a bicycle. They appear to be both on the same axis, with the escapement on the reverse. Why, you might ask? I mean, you must have forgotten that we've literally just looked at a ceramic dive watch Worldtimer, but nevertheless, Dunny offers 2 conclusions. 1, it cancels out the something something stability something, and 2, it looks cool. At 36mm and with price on request, it's going to be one for the most eclectic collectors. Damn it, Bock! Fair warning, no one said anything about these watches actually telling the time, and I think for most of us, we're pretty cool with that. Compared to telling the time on a phone, which is generally built in and available straight on the home screen, an accurate readout of tempo usually requires the downloading of an app, so it makes much more sense as a contender for a mechanical wrist-worn alternative. At least, I think so. And that's what Hokkaido-based watch drummer jazz apprentice Gaku Aado thinks too, whose name I've most definitely chewed with my mouth open. Rather than using mechanical watchmaking to represent passing time at a stifling 60 beats per minute, he's wrangled an ETA 6497 to bend it to his will. It's the power of 1,000 gods right there on your wrist. The caliber, given the full hand-finish treatment, transmits a steady beat to the bespoke metronome mechanism up front, which has to solve a particular challenge not faced by ordinary metronomes. When not sat static next to the cat photo on top of a piano teacher's instrument, how does it maintain a steady beat? Well, I don't really know, but Gaku does. What I can tell you is both winding and setting are achieved via the bezel, with the pusher at, well, not 4, but around 240 BPM when the bezel is set to the middle position, starting and stopping the mechanism. It's a mesmerizing thing to watch, and in true mysterious Japanese style, I have no idea what size it is, how much it costs, and how you even get one. I'm sure it's difficult. What I do know is that if you want one badly enough, you'll figure it out. Despite the flagrant imitation of the Daytona with its Chronosport, which I will from now on call the Photana, Zenith continues to supply us watch nerds with a bunch of historically inspired watches we demand they make, but nevertheless generally refuse to buy. In the meanwhile, therefore, it makes sense, as the Chronomasters both original and revival gather dust on retailers' shelves, to mix it up a little bit and try something new, if anything, just to feel young again. This is the Zenith x Revolution Chronomaster Revival CoverGirl Carbon, what I'd like to dub the Chronomaster midlife crisis. There comes a time in any man's life when his smooth skin dulls and his hair thins, and he decides that the only thing that will make up for that absence is a healthy dosage of carbon fiber. That can come in many forms, most often in something loud enough to draw attention to said carbon fiber, and here it's found its way into wristwatch form. The Chronomaster Revival's tonneau shape is the original alternative to the classic El Primero, very much a hopeful impression of what the 70s were promising to be about, but it very much remains the most unloved of the two ginger stepchildren that are the Chronomaster's original and revival. Can a cool leather jacket and a pair of Ray-Bans fix that? Revolution thinks so. Why is it called the CoverGirl? Quiet toots, the men are speaking. Is the kind of thing that would have been said when the watch this is originally based on was launched. Also, it appeared on the front cover of a book about Zenith or something, and now the name lingers around, making us all feel a little bit uncomfortable, and a little bit like Tom Selleck at the same time. Decked out in forged carbon fiber, which is a fancy way to say pressed carbon sweepings, the CoverGirl Carbon weighs in at 55 grams on the strap and 59 grams on the bracelet, which seems really impressive until you realise the bracelet's got bigger holes than the plot of the gorge. There's also a lot of holes in the price, given how many zeros there are, maxing out at $27,000. Not every watch that's hot and made available for sale need be new, and as if to prove that point in the most ostentatious way possible, I present to you the Patek Philippe 1518 Perpetual Calendar Chronograph in steel, which became the most expensive wristwatch in 2016 when an example sold for a teeth-curling $11 million. Well, those days are gone. They're all gone, and the 1518 is back, the incredibly steel watch that is still unaccountably expensive. And it's set to become the most expensive watch again, surpassing the Paul Newman's 18mm to breach the 20 million mark. To put that into perspective, that's the same price as a McLaren F1, a single episode of Severance, or divorcing Heather Mills. If you fancy putting in a cheeky offer, it's available with the Monaco Legend Group, because of course it's up for sale in the land of tax evasion. It feels like it's been a bit since Omega's last new release 5 minutes ago, so it's about time we had another, and this time it's the Speedmaster collection that's breeding like Bugs Bunny's Catholic cousin. This new watch is inspired by, surprise, an old one, an edition from 1994 that's been brought back to life by Instagram collector Horology Ancien. Pronunciation pending. Just single digits of this special edition will exist, and it's been spec'd up to the absolute limit. With a platinum case and bracelet, caliber 321, aventurine dial, and of course the emerald set bezel and crown, it truly is the watch equivalent of the BMW 3 Series with every option ticked, including rear seat heating and soft closed doors. It's an absolute monster and will be the smallest production run of any gem set Speedmaster, which are hardly overflowing in numbers as it is. Unlike your average 47th Street bust down, the execution of the gem setting here is impeccable, without a single setting visible. The unbroken flow will leave 90s kids free to reminisce about the legendary Nickelodeon dunk tank. Unlike the emeralds, the aventurine chosen is much more subtle in its appearance, a deep black with the occasional twinkle much more reminiscent of a city view of the night sky. Tip the crystal towards a window and it even mimics the light pollution. I don't know why, but there are a handful of wonderful people out there who've chosen to support me on Patreon, and what do I do to thank them? I post long rambling videos on watches and share my stupid thoughts with them in our group chat. Thank you Patreons for putting up with me. If you too are a masochist and want to join them, the link is in the description below. I don't know if you've noticed, but the love-hate relationship Mercedes F1 boss Toto Wolff has with his Bose headphones has caused the complete noise cancellation of the Bose sponsorship altogether. Known for his dramatic fits of violent frustration, Toto was often found pounding whatever was to hand, a kind of collateral fisting damage if you will, with his over-ear headphones supplied by Bose taking a fair share of that heat. Well, where one door closes, another opens, because IWC has built a watch it thinks can withstand Wolff's energetic outbursts. In true Formula 1 fashion, the name is so stupidly long no one will remember it, so future owners will be encouraged to write it down in case of a friendly inquiry. What watch is that you've got there? Why, I'm glad you asked. It's the IWC Big Pilot watch, shock absorber XPL Toto Wolff times Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question. At 44mm across and decked out in the same evil colour scheme we saw from Omega earlier, although this time IWC can at least show they're working with the Petronas brand colours. It contains a caliber 32101 protected by an absorbent structure presumably based on tampon technology that can withstand in excess of 30,000 G. To put that into perspective, Max's big crash at Silverstone was 51 G, and a torpedo strike about 20,000 G, which means the watch can easily survive a lunge from Daniel Kvyat. An armoured ceratanium case, that's titanium coated with ceramic, acts as the bunker for this whole ensemble, which has been limited to 100 pieces and costs $102,000. With the new F1 season starting, we'll see how many of those get used up by Toto Wolff himself. Collectors aware of GOS watches will also be aware of two distinct things. One, their use of layered Damascus steel, achieved by freezing a zebra in carbonite. And two, the unobtainium price of some $20,000. Well, never fear, because where there's an out-of-reach niche independent, Louis Erard isn't far behind. And for this edition of the Louis Erard La Regulateur, it's with GOS they're collaborating. Everything on the outside is familiar Louis Erard fare, with the exception of the GOS style tapered crown. But it's behind the crystal things start to take a turn for the Scandinavian, featuring the hand-wrought work of Metal Smasher and Matt Berry character Connie Persson, and the finishing treatment of Patrick Sugarin to really separate dark from light. Thanks to the manual procedure, every dial is different, but all equally evocative of a Joy Division album cover, and the Jura Forest or something. Broad, lance-like hands and the iconic GOS second hand adorn the regulator layout that separates hours, minutes and seconds. And unlike many other Louis Erard watches, this one all comes together at a very reasonable 39mm. With a Swiss Salita SW266 with 38 hours of power reserve and the inclusion of two straps, one calf, one salmon, the 4,250 Swiss franc price doesn't feel as bleak as the cold, harsh dial. Can you believe it? It's been 150 years since Jules-Louis Audemars locked eyes with Edward Auguste Piguet across a restaurant and shouted, "I'll have what he's having." And here we are today with a legacy of elegant watchmaking, beautiful complication and masterful design, and also a selection of new Audemars Piguet watches. We'll start with the Royal Oak self-winding perpetual calendar, which you may think doesn't need much more explanation based on that incredibly descriptive title, but actually marks a landmark moment in the departure of the previous caliber 5134, replaced by the new 7138. How different is it? 2004 different, and that's a lot. What separates these two perpetual motion machines is the way they are operated, with the old version poked with a cocktail stick from all angles to set the time, and the new one all done via the crown. If you're a klutz, don't worry, this isn't the IWC situation all over again, where the display can only go forwards in its entirety, leading to you breaking it and it having to go back to IWC. A clever crown mechanism with a hidden third position on the return back to retracted means each display can be cycled independently. It's not as clever as Ulysse Nardin's perpetual calendar that can be set forwards and backwards, but it's a start. The same mechanism can be found in the code 1159 by Audemars Piguet self-winding perpetual calendar. And yes, Audemars Piguet has started referring to itself in the third person. Perhaps an attempt to convince buyers the code 1159 is a legitimate AP purchase. It is now being referred to as the code 1159 by Audemars Piguet. So that in fact makes this the Audemars Piguet code 1159 by Audemars Piguet self-winding perpetual calendar. It also has the new caliber 7138 alongside the recent addition to the code 1159 by Audemars Piguet collection of the curved blade dial design that adjusts to the contours of your face. But the big fanfare is saved for the Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar Openworked 150th anniversary, which ushers in this new generation of calendar mechanisms by still using the old one. A titanium case and bracelet is set with a bulk metallic glass bezel and center links, which, if you're unfamiliar, is an amorphous metal cooled quickly from a liquid state so the atomic structure is irregular instead of crystalline, making it shiny like glass, but hopefully not as delicate. For me though, the unsung herpes, that's a spelling mistake I'm leaving in, which you'll understand in a second, of the collection is the code 1159, by Audemars Piguet remember, Grand Sonnerie Carillon Super Sonnerie. Now not only available open-worked, but also with a fantastic Harlequin opal dial, which looks very specifically like a light pollution map. Or herpes. You'll look both of those up and say, oh yeah, guaranteed. Prices of all these watches are obscenely high, of course, and are only available to customers whose names rhyme with Monjaya and Shed Erin. I don't know about you, but I'm getting Omega withdrawal symptoms, so it's time for another new release from the horological horseshoe, and this time it's the Seamaster Diver 300M, getting the upgrade treatment, in a resplendent new colour scheme inspired by the watch that's been a thorn in its side for well over a decade, the original 2012 Tudor Black Bay. The Omega Seamaster was once the cut-price alternative to the Rolex Submariner. However, the introduction of that rascally little Black Bay forced Omega's hand and sent it upstream on price, competing much more directly with Rolex and in some cases even in excess. And excess is the name of the game with this updated edition, which complements a ruby red bezel in anodized aluminium with a case and bracelet Omega describes as being crafted from a one-of-a-kind alloy of bronze that's 37.5% gold, making it the Chav favourite composition 9 carat. With 9 carat containing half the gold of 18, that should make this Seamaster roughly half the price of the solid gold Submariner, which costs £38,100. At £26,400, it actually costs 69%, which feels like it's on purpose. Nevertheless, it's one of the most attractive colour combos of this updated dateless style Seamaster yet. What appears to be not only the current design direction for Omega's most popular dive watch, but price direction as well. It hasn't escaped my notice that the absence of the date appears to come at a premium, whereas with Rolex, it's delivered with a discount. Although, how can you say no to those delicious dial-sized servings of creme brulee? If you enjoy what I do and want to support it, but really don't want to do anything that involves more than a single finger, you can still like the video and make sure you're subscribed as well. YouTube loves that stuff, and so do I too. Also, as we're coming up to Watches and Wonders, let's carry on our comment experiment by remarking in the comments below what you think will be released this year. Thank you. Meanwhile, you know serious when Greubel Forsey of all people announce what they describe as the ultimate perpetual calendar, and when that watch is called the QP equation, I'm inclined to believe them. Like how I'd believe Elon Musk's imminent ascension to world domination if his next technological development was called Death Ray. Buried in the middle of the QP equation is what Greubel Forsey is calling, in capitals no less, a mechanical computer. In it are a set of coding wheels arranged in a coaxial manner, as you do, along with removable fingers, which reminds me of a recurring dream I keep having where I'm being chased and my fingers fall off and I have to pick them up and stick them back on again, but in my haste I stick them all on backwards. You get all your usual perpetual calendar stuff. Your days, your dates, your months, and of course your years, corrected for leap years, plus a bunch of cool stuff like seasons, solstices, equinoxes, basically everything you need to know if you're a wizard. A linear display for the day, date, and month makes for no mistakes with easy reading, and is orientated in the correct way, placing the date ahead of the month rather than whatever the hell it is America thinks it's doing, plus how they do the date back to front as well. Small wrists should cower in fear at this 43.5mm by 16mm weapon, however with only a few pieces made per year at a cost of $1 million each, how it wears is the least of your concerns. If there's one thing Ming have absolutely nailed, it's brand identity, a simple formula of shapes and proportions that's very distinctly Ming. Case in point, the new Project 21, which boils down the very essence of purist Ming into a tiny Ming nugget. With just 15 pieces being made, only 35mm across and 6.9mm thick, this watch literally isn't for everyone, a point that's hammered home with a price tag of 32,500 Swiss francs. But all that aside, the watch itself is a beacon of brilliant simplicity. The tantalum case, when viewed from the front, a singular flowing piece in a matte finish that feels both alien and organic. A Martian's toenail dusted with the sands of the red planet itself. In that glimmering Martian dust are strange markings that could hold the key to the ancient alien civilization that gave us the pyramids and unlock the power of nuclear fusion. Or they could just be random lines that look pretty cool. Probably that one. The delicate minute hand contrasts the slab-like hour, yet both still feel like they belong together. It's effortless, yet distinctive, which is a really challenging feat to master. Like buying time when you feel like you're going to shit yourself by tactically passing gas. The carrot on the snowman here is the vintage Patek Philippe caliber 21, the source of the watch's limited nature, reworked and refinished to Ming standards for the Project 21, and of course its name. What was essentially a passion project with limited commercial viability just to satiate curiosity. It's also an interesting look into the future perspective on size trends, but hopefully not price ones. I've long said the mark of good product design is the desire to put it in your mouth, and you'd better believe I love eating crayons. Both the Anywhere and the Everywhere combine tradition with innovation in a way that left my mouth watering, and whilst the as yet incomplete whatever the f*** rumbles on, we get to enjoy a new entry piece into the collection, the Anyday. So it's a watch with a date, right? So what? Big whoop. This time crayons phoned it in, grabbing cash like contestants of the Crystal Maze. This is no Crayola, it's a cheap store brand imitation and it tastes terrible. Not likely. Krayon hasn't just added a date to hours and minutes, it's been reinvented entirely. Right, check this out. Around the outside of the dial are the dates laid out from 1 to 31, like we've done since Julius Caesar forgot his wife's birthday and rearranged the entire calendar to get away with it. And there's a little crescent-shaped indicator that patrols the dial's perimeter that snaps from one date to the next at midnight, so you know which it is. Cool so far, if not too unexpected. It's basically a hidden hand. This next bit though is where Crayon's really done their colouring in. The dates around the outside don't just sit there waiting for their moment in the spotlight once a month, or every other if they're 29 and over. The days that make up the weekends are highlighted for the entire month, making the Anyday something more like a hump day calculator, letting you know your proximity to this godforsaken island adrift in the middle of the week. The Anyday also adopts Crayon's distinctive finishing arrangement, with jewels like Jolly Ranchers, and those curved waves propagating like sound visualized in Schleuren imaging. What's especially satisfying are two jeweled cam rollers that advance the date complications forward every midnight. I can just hear the ASMR rumble right now. A 39mm diameter and 9.5mm case height won't do anything to assuage the inevitable upset of the 88,000 Swiss franc price. We recently saw the Mad 1 grow up and get a steady job with the Mad 1S, a slimmer, more refined version of the Tasmanian Devil in a timepiece that was the original. And it seems that trend for getting increasingly more sensible has continued with a completely new addition to the collection, the Mad 2. This time penned by watch design legend Eric Giroud, it's dialed down the display quite literally into a thinner, more unassuming timepiece. Or so you'd think, because, like Giroud's own reserved persona, the Mad 2 has a wild side. When he's not thinking Swiss thoughts, he's out pounding the dance floor, gurning the night away at one of Lausanne's underground acid house parties. You wouldn't think it to look at him, but it's rumoured that Giroud was the 98th member of the prodigy. So whilst the 42mm case seems simplified with its two central dials, one a jump hour, the other minutes, turn out the lights and the peripheral madness becomes apparent. Like the Mad 1S, the spinning rotor of the La Joux-Perret caliber G101 provides all the entertainment, this time set with dots that give a strobing effect like the Technics decks Giroud used DJing sets at Bagley's. There's two iterations of the Mad 2, the Tribe members only orange and the one you can get in green. At least if you win the raffle, and the price if you do win will be 2,900 Swiss francs. And I think that's about it. But wait! News just in! Omega have released another watch! This time it's a Speedmaster in platinum with a black dial set with meteorite subdials and fitted with the caliber 321 for £61,600 that… do you know what? I give up. You win, Omega. You win. And remember, if you can't keep up with it all, make sure to stop by often and I'll bring you up to speed. Unless it's about Omega. No one can keep up with that. See you next time.